Top of the Premier League by 6 points. Top of the Champions League by 3 points with fewest goals conceded in both competitions. Are Mikel Arteta's Arsenal the best team in Europe? Hello, welcome back. I'm Statman Dave and today I'm going to be answering that question. Of course, if you are new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video. But anyway, let's get this party started. Arsenal are a top side, that can't be questioned. Over the past 3 seasons, not only have they picked up more points than either side, but they've lost just one of the last 24 matches against Big Six opposition. They've also started to translate that form to Europe, reaching the Champions League semi-final last season and smashing everyone they faced this season. But why are the Gunners so good in big games? Arsenal's big match game plan starts with a hard-working, safety-first approach. The 4-4-2 defensive structure. Arsenal last season very much would press with Declan Rice jumping high to put pressure on the opposition's number 6. The 2 wide players would tuck inside and Arsenal would very much create a diamond in a pressing sense with Rice being high and the number 6 behind him being low. But with recruitment, Arsenal this season are even better. They're harder to play through the middle of their shape. That comes from the signing of Zubimendi, who's got real ability in pressing moments, which means that not only Declan Rice at times can sit and hold his position and be the player that's kind of shuttling across and making interceptions, but Zubimendi is also very, very good at jumping high. In the game against Bayern Munich, we saw him hassle Pavlovic very well in midfield when the German midfield was receiving in these positions, with the diamond being created with Rice tucking over, the 2 midfielders once again being wide, but Zubimendi being that pressing force and forcing high turnovers and pouncing on poor passes, backwards or sideways passes. And for me, this is why Arsenal have got even better this season. That now with Zubimendi being in midfield, it allows other types of pressing moments. Last season, we saw it more being Declan Rice. Now, Arsenal are so flexible and so good in their defensive structure. What I think is even better, not only do we have fluidity in those central midfield areas now, when Arsenal have not got the ball, but also players are very, very well, coached and instructed in terms of covering positions. Interchanges between the strikers, the left midfielders. All of Arsenal's front 6 players are very capable at taking up different roles. Of course, against Bayern Munich, one of the other things that Bayern have done this season really well is drop players deep to kind of get them on the ball in these deep areas. Of course, Arsenal's defensive unit is very, very good at jumping high, be it Carl dropping into midfield and Mascara going, or alternatively, Carl holding his position, Harry Kane dropping very, very deep, as we saw against Bayern Munich for Arsenal, William Saliba being super aggressive on his back. Harry Kane didn't get a kick, and that is credit to Arsenal and Mikel Arteta's 4-4-2. And big teams don't like this kind of approach. Most big teams are possession-based, and they want to play their way into matches, but Arsenal don't give them a chance, and this is exactly what happened against Bayern Munich. In fact, the corner that led to Timber's opening goal came from a Zubimendi turnover on Lima. So pick up the play after Arsenal have lost possession in the Bayern half and they're pressing. We can clearly see that 4-4-2 structure. Eze on the left wing, Trossard at the moment playing as a nominal striker. As Trossard presses the ball, Saka is ready to jump on that square pass and instantly puts Lima under pressure. This forces the Austrian midfielder to play a poor pass inside, and we can clearly see this Arsenal structure. But the difference this season is Zubimendi is very good in these positions, the player that jumps high. Last season it was just Declan Rice. Now with new personnel, Zubimendi is very good in these areas, instantly putting Pavlovic under pressure. The pass is quite poor, the ball is hooked in the air. Zubimendi wins the aerial duel and flicks it onto Saka. A poor touch and there is a little bit of chaos. But for me, this is where Arsenal do very, very well now with their midfield setup. Instantly, Zubimendi, pressure on the ball, wins it off Lima and drives to the byline, and Lima is forced to concede the corner that leads to the Arsenal goal. That all comes from really good pressure and Bayern Munich being super uncomfortable at the base of their midfield. That's an area where they've been so relaxed this season, but Arsenal showing once again why their 4-4-2 structure is probably the best in Europe right now when pressuring the opponents. And the constant threat from set pieces means Arsenal start most games knowing that they'll score at least 1 goal, and it's a well-founded belief. The Gunners have scored more goals than any other team across Europe from set pieces this season, 14 across all competitions. This belief allows them to play more conservatively, almost as if they're already winning, which allows them to ruffle up their opponents and stop them getting into rhythm, especially pressing them in central midfield. And it's a style that big teams don't like to play against. In fact, Joshua Kimmich had this to say: "I think PSG was our toughest opponent, especially the way they play football. Arsenal is completely different. They rely on set pieces and they love to play the long balls." You can criticise Arsenal for not playing like a big team, but that counts for nothing. Arteta's game plan is so effective, especially in big games. In fact, the ironic thing about Kimmich's quote is it took a long ball from Bayern, the best attacking team in Europe this season, to create a big chance against the Gunners. Once again, we see Arsenal in their 4-4-2 structure, cutting off all the short passing options. Yes, Arteta has made the 4-4-2 great again. But here's where Arsenal make a slight mistake. Not only is their defensive line a little bit deep, but they gave Joshua Kimmich a little bit too much time on the ball. He gets his head up and spot to pass, and he fires it 50 yards, and it's absolutely pinpoint. Karl has also run off the back of Mosquera, and of course Bayern Munich grab an equaliser. You know, you could look at that, and with Arsenal's starting 11, with the strongest team, with Gabriel and Calafiori, that probably doesn't happen. The defensive line may be a little bit higher at the pitch, or alternatively, Gabriel and Calafiori could deal with that long ball. But giving Kimmich that time is a little bit of a mistake, but Arsenal's shape was still very, very good throughout the 90 minutes, stopping those short passing options into midfield, forcing Bayern to play a long ball to score a goal. In fact, what truly shows how well Arsenal stopped Bayern Munich is the Bavarians managed to create just 0.65 XG, an enormous drop off from their season average of nearly 2.7 XG per game. Whereas last season, Arsenal ultimately lost to PSG because they couldn't score, their transfers have built a squad that not only has talented players who fit Arteta's style, but Arsenal have a squad of game changers. Their plan A in big games that we mentioned earlier, being tough to break down and a threat from set pieces and direct attacks whilst retaining quality in possession, really gets the best out of their players. Arsenal's back four are all fantastic defenders, and Arteta fully trusts them 1v1. This allows Arsenal to commit even more bodies in pressing moments. It can strangle the opponent and stop them playing out from the back. So just in terms of how Bayern Munich build, as we mentioned previously, at times we see the two forwards dropping deep to get on the ball. But also we see Joshua Kimmich almost operate as a halfback at times. What he'll do is drop in between the two centre halves, which not only will allow him to get on the ball in those deep areas, but also what we see is the two wide players hold super width and the two fullbacks come into inverted areas. And because Zubimendi now is a player that is very mobile and can press the number 8, it allows Declan Rice to take more of a cover position. This is a role that he excelled at for West Ham, sitting, waiting and intercepting. During his years under David Moyes, he ranked very high for ball recoveries and interceptions. But because he had to jump so much last season for Arsenal, we didn't quite see this other side of his game. That's waiting for the right moment. And given the fact that not only do we see those two little bits of movement with Joshua Kimmich kind of splitting the centre-backs and getting on the ball in deep areas, Arsenal can still put them under pressure with their two centre-forwards. Zubimendi can monitor Pavlovic dropping deeper in a higher position, but now Declan Rice can do, which is one of his best skill sets in my opinion, is cover space and make interceptions, and that's exactly what we saw for Arsenal's second goal of the game. So we pick up the play with Manuel Neuer in possession. He's going to fire a ball into the feet of Kimmich, who's dropping off the line to get into this half-back position. As Joshua Kimmich receives the ball, Mikel Moreno's going to put pressure on his back. Then Bayern Munich are going to work it out to their right-hand side of their shape. We can see top of shot that Pavlovic is almost getting man-marked by Zubimendi in this move. Zubimendi is higher than Declan Rice. What we mentioned previously is the fullback inverting. The winger's going to hold the width, the fullback's going to come inside, and that should be a free pass. But what Declan Rice can do now in this deeper position, where he can sit and marshal in front of the defence, is he can step in. He's got a great ability to read things, but also that little burst of pace to get in front of Stanisic in this move. He jumps in and makes the interception. But also you can look at that fluidity there. Arsenal made 2 subs on 68 minutes, bringing on Martinelli for Saka and Calafiori on for Lewis Skelly. Again, Arteta's substitutes massive in this game. Not only meaning that Madueke was now on the right-hand side as the goal scorer, but look at that ability to cover each other's positions. This truly is one team, one organism that works together. We see Rice step in this moment, and then Arsenal in a really good situation. Bayern Munich's fullback is out the game, the winger's not in a very good defensive position, Arsenal can break through. With the ball carrying ability of Declan Rice in these types of positions is going to give Arsenal a new edge this season. His ability to drive through and carry is fantastic. He finds Eze, who's pulled into his natural wide area to receive the ball. There's a 2-on-1 on Elise, not even the Bayern Munich fullback. Calafiori makes that run inside, gets his head up, and Arsenal have now got a 3v2 on the back post. The ball is absolutely perfect. Madueke makes the run on the blind side of Jonathan Tah and fires Arsenal into a well-deserved lead. But big credit to Arteta, that once again, going back to the tactics board to kind of look at the substitutions, at that moment Saka had come off. Madueke was brought on for Trossard pretty early on in the game, and Martinelli on the left-hand side, and of course, as mentioned previously, Calafiori at left-back. Once again, big changes, the shape, the team playing perfectly together. Credit to the 4-4-2 that Arsenal have created this season. Going back to Jurgen Klopp, he got a lot of praise for min-maxing his Liverpool team. He used an extremely hard-working midfield three, and his team were better without the ball than with it. In fact, common criticism, that if there were any that you could give early Liverpool, was they struggled to break teams down under Klopp. And that's just not the same issue for Arteta's Arsenal, especially with the squad they've built. Eze's first goal against Spurs was a fantastic piece of brilliance, beating multiple players inside the box to finish and break down Spurs' low block. Arteta now has a squad of players who can change games from the bench. Eze and Trossard did the business against Spurs, and Calafiori and Madueke did it from the bench against Bayern. What's more is Arsenal demolished Bayern without one of the best centre-half pairings in Europe, their main playmaker and club captain, as well as their first and second choice strikers. And another criticism of Arsenal is they're too heavily reliant on set pieces. Again, Klopp's Liverpool also were very good from set pieces, and famously hired Thomas Grummark as a throwing coach to make even more of every attacking situation. In fact, Klopp's Liverpool scored 20 goals from dead balls in the 18-19 season, a total only bettered by Man City over the past 7 years. It's time Arsenal and Arteta get the praise they deserve for being like Klopp's Liverpool, a team that minimises their weaknesses and maximises their strengths. But we have to talk about Gabriel Martinelli, one of the biggest winners of Arsenal's squad building. Whilst he's not the undisputed starter anymore, the depth has allowed Arteta to use Martinelli in the perfect role for the Brazilian. He's extremely hard-working, exceptionally quick, and a dangerous finisher. The ideal winger to see out a game or change it from the bench, and his goal against Bayern is becoming a bit of a trademark. He's done it against Liverpool and Man City, as well as countless teams in the Premier League. He's done it against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, and now he's done it against Bayern Munich. We pick up the play of Elise in a 1v1 with Calafiori. Not a great position, but Arsenal react very well. We can see him cutting inside and them surrounding the ball, mobbing Elise, one of the most dangerous attackers in Europe. He's got more assists than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues in all competitions. But as Arsenal swarm and win the ball back, again, you see Calafiori's pressure on the back, Declan Rice, but also there is 5 men around the ball. This team is working so well as a unit. I keep saying that, but I can't understate it. As soon as the ball's won, Arsenal look set to spring the counter-attack. And I think when we look at someone like Mikel Elise and his time at Crystal Palace, they were an elite level counter-attacking team, with Elise knitting a lot of those attacks together. As Moreno plays a pass against the grain, Eze is in space. And what I love about this is his patience. He allows Gabriel Martinelli to get ahead of steam and then plays the pass. Because if he plays the pass now, there's still opportunity for Tah or Joshua Kimmich to get back. But his patience is world class. It allows the attacker, Martinelli, to get in behind the defence, for him to be freed. Manuel Neuer rushes out, Martinelli goes round him and simply side foots the ball home. But once again, this comes from great work from the team and having the patience and the pace on the break to really kill your opponent. So, are Arsenal the best team in Europe now? Get in the comments below. I think it's very hard to argue against it. Yes, it's still early days, but being top of both the Champions League and the Premier League says a lot about their quality. I really thought that Arsenal's summer signings in Gyökeres and Eze were signed to improve them against weaker teams rather than big ones. But Now looking at the setup, with Eze being that aggressive worker, and also you're thinking Gyökeres's work off the ball this season, Arsenal could be so dangerous in these bigger games, even better. You throw in the likes of Califu and Gabriel into the 11 that started against Bayern, you got a top side. But throwing that extra little bit of quality up front from a goal-scoring perspective, Arsenal have brought back the 4-4-2. They're a team that can nullify the opposition, that can take the lead through individual brilliance of their forwards, or from a calculated set piece, and then bring on the likes of Martinelli, Moreno, Havertz when he's back fit, to annihilate teams on the counter-attack. As things stand, I do think that Arsenal are the best team in Europe right now. But anyway, guys, what do you think? Are they the best? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Statman Dave. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.
Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, why not check out some more content on the Statman Dave YouTube channel?